Okay, folks, it's Global Music Match Week 1, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by the fantastic Christina Martin, all the way from Canada, the east coast of Canada. So, hi, Christina.
Sam.
Going to get straight to it. So, you grew up in Canada, you went to the States for a while, you went to Austin, Texas, and then later on you kind of came back to Canada. So I was just interested in what was your experience of playing and living in the States, and how was that different from Canada, and what kind of drew you back to Canada after that?
Well, I have my dual citizenship because I was born in Florida, and so when I was about 19, I at that time in my life I wasn't doing any music really. Like I enjoyed singing, but I just it wasn't on my radar. And pretty significant event happened in my life, or my father passed away, and it was this real pivotal, it just time in my life where I realized I have no idea what I want to do. When death is right in your face, um, it just kind of made me realize the fragility of life. And I started thinking, well, what have I got to lose if I want to go for the types of things in my life that I'm afraid of doing or I've always kind of dreamed of? What if I just go for it and try to figure myself out? And so in that process, I went to Austin, Texas, but I didn't know it was the live music capital of the world. And at that point, like, it just seemed like all the decisions I was making for the next, about half a decade, going with an intuition, trying new things, being really, really open, led me to just more opportunities to discover myself and my relationships in life, my complex relationships, not just personal, like, with partners, but like my family and I knew in Austin, being the live music capital of the world, there were just so many incredible opportunities to try new things. And so I joined a 70s rock revival band and got kicked out of that, and met some people, and people seemed to be encouraging me to do my music. I was playing open mic nights multiple times in the week for beer and spaghetti, and meeting friends that were doing the same thing, just starting out. And so it was in Austin. It was all about trying to learn this new craft and storytelling. I taught myself how to play rhythm, acoustic guitar, and just writing and journaling, and giving myself time to read and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I still didn't know for quite a long time. I wasn't thinking of like intentions and whatnot. But the music scene in Austin was incredibly vibrant, and it's just a great place that you can be weird and open, and it's the most liberal, I would say, spot in the South of the United States. And so I came back to Atlanta, Canada. This was after my first album was recorded and released, a soft release. I had no idea about the music business and how to make a living really doing music. I was at that time working, multiple jobs, and just to finance this, what I thought was a hobby, and little things would happen. Like I got an opening slot for Wilco at the Austin City Music Festival. And it was just like, here I was in front of their audience, they're waiting for Wilco. And and they were so gracious and appreciative that I was taking my time to share, my own personal narratives and experiences. And I wasn't very good. And they were so generous. And I just kind of got instantly addicted to that exchange, that connection. I just had never experienced anything like that. People were listening to me, and so I thought this is so cool to have a platform to be heard. And then later on came I should really be thinking about what I'm saying. Like I should really be trying, more conscientious about my messages, and it becomes later on not all about you, although a big part of it is. And moving back to Canada, my intentions were to finish university, because that was always something that bothered me, that I didn't finish that. And I kept doing music, but I was going to quit. And I discovered that Nova Scotia in Canada there were a lot of opportunities through our music export organizations, East Coast Music Awards and Music Nova Scotia, that allowed for musicians to learn more about the music business and doing it yourself. And I made a decision after a series of events that just I committed 100% to it, and learned that there was a vibrant singer-songwriter scene, music scene in East Coast Canada. I had no idea, before any of that. I was on a different wavelength, thinking about other things, and I'm always last to the party, like skinny jeans. Skinny jeans for me, I just discovered them, and now I'm probably going to be in them, for the rest of my life. But I haven't graduated. I'm just always the last to pick up on these things, So I don't know if that answered your question or not. But.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like we've kind of got straight in there. So in a way, maybe Austin was like your Hamburg kind of experience. You kind of grew up in Austin musically, maybe, and then kind of developed it and matured it when you came back to Canada, and that's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
And I something that I played in Canada a little bit, and I have a little bit of kind of a picture of the scene, but it seems like there's a fantastic amount of sort of support and funding and opportunities for artists that maybe isn't there in some other places. I just think it seems like a really supportive community. Is that naive, or is that fair?
No, it's not. It's not naive. I mean, it's I hate to use the word competitive, because there's a lot of really incredible musicians here vying for the same funding and programs, but it's I feel like it's a very open and sharing community. At least now, I don't, maybe a decade ago, people were a little more guarded, but when I've reached out to ask other musicians or managers, what are you doing that's working, or what do you think about this initiative? People are much more open now to helping out, and we just kind of want to see everybody succeed. And no, you're right. You're right. We are very fortunate here, for sure.
That's great.
Still hard. It's still a slog, Sam.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying. I know it's a slog. It is a slog. I just wanted to ask you about your writing process, and I've been really enjoying your songs and your songwriting, and I just wondered, are you the kind of writer that kind of gets an idea, you kind of start with an idea of this is what I'm going to write about, or does something kind of just emerge sort of semi-consciously and then coalesce into something, or somewhere in the middle? How's the writing process for you? Is it fun? Is it frustrating? Is it, how is it? How do you find it? Yeah.
Everything you just mentioned. Yeah. It's a mesh, right? And I mean, this, like, the longer you do this, starting out, it's I don't even remember. It's so long ago, Sam, starting out. What was it like? It was like taking journal bits that seemed like could possibly be poems, rough, loose poems, and very narrative, and very much, purging things that I never really had a chance to sort through and sift through, and it's coming out in the songs. And having the acoustic guitar was my vehicle initially, and because I was seeing other people do this on stage, I thought, well, maybe I'll get a guitar and I'll see how that helps. And then just kind of messing with it and learning other songs and feeling different melodies and rhythms inspired by the music I was listening to at the time, and that triggering like an idea, and then me taking the words and putting it to like that. That's happened and still happens today, when you're listening to your favorite artists, and that triggers just something like just a little grain of a little spark, and then you go and you take that and do something else with it if you give it the attention. And I have a lot of pieces of lyrics and ideas that aren't fully formed, that I sometimes, when I make the time, I'm not an artist that writes songs every day. I try to journal as much as I can, almost daily, but I don't get to do that. But I've accumulated over the years like snippets of lyrics and ideas and words, just in traveling, and then I'll when I'm like have the 3 weeks that I want to focus on a new album and writing, perhaps I can sit through all that and I organize it, and I look for things that trigger something else, and sometimes I'll have these ideas for years, and I just sit with them. Like I don't like to force stuff. I don't actually have a whole lot of time to sit around, and unfortunately, it's one thing I would love to do more of, that I spend a majority of my time doing the music business side of things, because I feel it's important, and I also enjoy it. I feel like it's also a creative outlet for me. When I start writing a song, right away, if I feel like it's something that resonates then within me first, that potentially could resonate with somebody else, then I already start having visuals for, well, what might a music video look like? What might the artwork look like? Even though it may never, that's just how my brain works. Like, even if that never actually comes to like fruition. So, that's all exciting to me. And then I want to go and make my lists on how we might potentially, launch. And I love the idea of then working with my team to do that. And when I say team, like it could be one other person. It could be, teammates in different markets, but just the whole process of creating something from seemingly nothing. I don't believe that it's entirely nothing, but and then delivering it. I enjoy that whole stretch. So yeah.
So I was listening to your live album, live at the Marquee Ballroom.
Thank you.
Impossible to Hold, which I very much enjoyed, which I think was kind of like a live version of the album that you released with 2018, was that, I think?
Yep.
And then with some live favorites. Really enjoyed it. So I just wanted to talk about some particular stuff on there, because I really like the feel of it. It's really, really great. Really like some of the production. So I just wanted to pick out a couple of songs that kind of struck me were really cool. One of them was Lungs Are Burning. And I kind of read a bit around what you'd said that song was about, but I just wondered if you wanted to briefly tell everybody what that song was about, because it's got substance, which I liked. So yeah.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And thank you for listening to that album. And so that was the first single from the album Impossible to Hold that came out. And incidentally, but not so incidentally, my husband and I we were finishing up production on that record when we had gone to tour in the UK, and we watched, we bought tickets. We actually bought tickets to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and Stevie Nicks was opening, and planned the UK tour so that the last day we were there, we would see that concert. And that was 2017. So really glad we got to experience that, and flew home and just had this, it was just a reminder of why we both love doing what we do, why we do try to play with the band and do like a special event and special shows when I can afford it. And so that was the first single that came out, Lungs Are Burning. And I had read, my brother Stefan passed away in 2013. He died of an opioid overdose, and he lived with addiction most of his adult life and undiagnosed mental illness. That was horrible, and losing him. And, it was something that I, growing up, had always kind of expected was going to happen, because there were other times where he had overdosed, but I thought we were past that, really. And I really wasn't, I had a lot to learn about, and this isn't coming from a place of like, I'm blaming myself, but my role in my relationship to somebody who I love, who is living with mental illness. And, now versus then, all the things I've learned and messages of just even some simple things on how do we reach out to the people we love and whatnot. If that has come out of this, I mean, it's the one like kind of light that's, I suppose, come out of a tragic loss. Is that now I can share those little messages. But I, around 2016, was reading newspapers about the fentanyl overdose crisis in Canada specifically. And that just was a trigger for me and my loss and confused, complicated feelings around it all. And it's funny. A lot of songs do come out of that weird. I didn't really plan it, but I woke up from a night's sleep and I had this line, sort of like a melody. It was "Hearts are burning, hearts are yearning, and we're reaching to fill ourselves." And I woke up my husband and said, "Do you want to work on this song with me?" And he suggested we change that line to "Lungs are burning," and it really was a song about sort of my own kind of a hole and a void and a burning sensation that I carried with me around, especially around that time. And I just started thinking about all the people who were suffering, living with, but also the family members, and the people losing people they loved. And shortly after my brother's tragic death, a young girl who I used to live with, a nanny in Austin, Allie Anderson, she also overdosed. And so it was just this piling up of like, this is so heavy, and that song was a way for me to kind of express what was going through my mind and my body, and this idea that we all have these, suffering is obviously one of these, and pain is it's something we can't really avoid, I don't think. And so it was, I guess, just, it came about out of that, I suppose. That so not just the one loss, but the accumulation of loss, and then the constant reminders that this is a huge problem, and what are we doing about it? How are we, it just seemed like everybody who was dying from an overdose, a fentanyl overdose that wasn't a celebrity, and every loss is tragic, obviously, but was just being kind of pushed aside and brushed under. Nothing. Well, like it's just, so pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's heavy, but I really feel like the song, it's a great thing to have taken that raw, difficult stuff and to have made it into something beautiful that's kind of raised the profile of that issue. And I think that's a great thing. And I'm really sorry to hear about your brother and your friend as well. But I think,
thanks, Sam.
It's a wonderful thing to do with that energy. I think I don't know about you, but that's kind of why I'm in this business, is taking difficult shit and making something beautiful out of it. So
yeah, it's true. I mean, over the years I've thought my job is to try to talk about the tough stuff, and even though I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. And a lot of times when that song and many other songs that I've written that were conversations with my brother and I when he was alive, saying the things that I couldn't say to him in person, either because it was too I suppose soft, and I always tried to be tough around him. And I really learned how to open up and express vulnerability through songwriting. And to have those later too, as a launching point to talk about a tough subject on stage, was really a gift, I think. So we're lucky that we have that. I mean, that's as artists, I think that's just one of the biggest perks, not the tragedies that connected to them, but that we can do that and help other people heal as well. A lot of people obviously are not songwriters, not singers, and they come out to feel something, not just to be distracted or entertained. I mean, I know that some people don't like to be reminded of darker things, but I think my audience, for the most part, are cool and open with that and want to feel something, because most of the time in order to work and function on a day-to-day basis, we don't want to be thinking and processing these things all the time, but we can't just let them slide. Like, we do have to find outlets for that. So yes, art is one of the best places for that.
Just to kind of highlight the great production that your musical partner Dale Murray has, kind of put on this record, and the particularly enjoyed a couple of guitar moments The track
Oh, yes.
Foreign has a really great ripping kind of fuzz guitar solo right up my street.
Yeah.
And then on Where the Dark Meets the Light, there's a great bit of Neil Young influenced guitar stuff coming through there. And I just wanted to highlight that for any guitar nerds listening, because I do have quite a big guitar nerd kind of contingency in my audience, because I'm one too. So there we go. I just wanted to lastly ask you, I mean, we can't really, sorry, I'm just having to deal with the nuclear thing again. What have you been doing during lockdown? I've seen that you've had, you've kind of been straight on it and got some stuff happening, even, having lost tours like the rest of us. And just tell us what you're pushing at the moment, what's going on, what you're doing online, all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Yeah. Well, right after lockdown, before lockdown, I was opposed to doing online performances. And as soon as COVID hit and we didn't know when we could get back to touring, we discovered I have a lot to learn in terms of the technology and how do we really spent a lot of time. Like, we started live streaming right away, but then we were like, well, this doesn't work to do it all the time. And then took some time off. And so we basically, I launched a series called the Denim Sessions. It's only 10 weeks long. And that'll be up on across socials, indefinitely, probably until I'm embarrassed by myself and take them down. But it was really just a fun way to kind of keep playing, keep rehearsing, interact with my audience, like get better at performing to the screen and trying to connect, when there's no one, you don't see anybody in the room. And it's been a mix of panic, fun, stress, relief. And now I'm grateful for all the things we've been learning. And other than that, I did, put out that new live album, Impossible to Hold, live at the Marquee Ballroom. We're actually mastering today another live album from 2015, It'll Be All Right, that was on the back burner until a 10-year anniversary. But we decided, because of the Bandcamp Fridays have been so helpful, and I've noticed people, have you noticed this, are really supporting artists, buying digital, buying physical. Yeah. And so we wanted to have something for the next one. So that's going to be available for pre-order, and then is out October 4th, I believe, on Bandcamp. And I mean, right now I'm just it's too much. But there was a single that we recorded, and we pulled it in May, and that was during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. I shouldn't say height. I mean, it's still absolutely important, and but it just it's a song, Respect. We had recorded it in January with my band, and then mixed it once we got home from COVID, and then just realizing my own role in so much unlearning and learning I had to do in regards to that, in regards to systematic racial injustice. It felt like the wrong time to release a single that was written, recorded, made famous by two African Americans that were incredibly iconic. So we put a hold on that release until the messaging felt, much more valid and respectful, because the timing was absolutely not. It wasn't cool, for us to be releasing that, especially when the artwork. I won't get into it, but it was just, oh my goodness! In hindsight, So it's been, it's just been an incredible time of learning, just across the board. How do we become better ancestors? How do we become more conscientious at what we do in all the choices? That's what I've found, and so we're still working on that. That was a long answer.
Great.
I'm sorry.
No, it was great. Well, thanks so much. And, I wish you the best, kind of continuing to get through this bonkers time that we're going through. And I'm really grateful for your honesty and your candor in your answers and generosity, and with your time. And thanks so much. Christina Martin, people, go and check out her music. Yeah, and stay tuned
Thanks,
for more
Sam.
Global Music Match Madness.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.